Every morning, right after sunrise, the neighborhood sees something that feels impossible. A little girl, maybe 4 at most, calmly leads 6 huge police German shepherds, like they're her personal security detail. Drivers slowed down and stared, and everyone murmured the exact same question. Who is this child? She never smiled, never spoke, never seemed afraid, and the dogs, every single one of them, acted like she was the most important person on earth. Some thought it was adorable, some thought it was strange, but nobody knew the truth. People tried to talk to her, but the moment anyone came too close, the dogs erupted into frantic barking, like a warning siren telling everyone to back off. But one winter morning, when a passerby quietly trailed her from a distance, what he stumbled onto stunned the entire neighborhood. The little girl was hiding a secret so huge, so unreal, that when it finally surfaced, the entire city went still. Stick around, because this story is going to leave you speechless. Before we start, make sure to hit like and subscribe. And really, I'm curious. Where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The neighborhood of Willowbrook was the kind of place where mornings felt calm, familiar, and almost scripted. Coffee simmering, school buses sighing to a stop, joggers tapping down the sidewalks. But recently, something extraordinary had started happening every single day, right at 7:15 a.m. Something that made conversations die mid-word, made cars crawl, and made shop owners lean forward like they were seeing a miracle. Because the moment the church bell rang its first note, a tiny little girl, no more than 5 years old, would appear at the corner of Maple Street in a bright pink coat, brown hair pulled into a slightly messy ponytail. Her small hands clutched a thick bundle of leashes, the straps fanned out like spokes on a wheel, and at the far end of those leashes walked 6 enormous German shepherds, muscular, locked in, unmistakably police K9s. Together they moved in flawless synchrony, like a team that had drilled this route 1,000 times. The dogs formed a protective semicircle around the child, their steps controlled, their eyes constantly sweeping the area. The instant someone approached too quickly, whether a jogger, cyclist, or curious neighbor, one of the dogs would subtly shift position, blocking the person's path with quiet, only intimidating authority. But the strangest part, the little girl didn't seem afraid of them at all. In fact, they obeyed her. She'd occasionally tug a leash or whisper a soft command, and 6 elite police-trained German shepherds would respond instantly, as if her tiny voice carried the same power as a seasoned handler. People tried waving at her, offering smiles, even bending slightly to say hello, but she always responded the same way, with a polite nod, a tight-lipped smile, and a shy lowering of her eyes before continuing her route. It didn't take long for rumors to spread. "That girl must belong to a police chief," one man insisted, while watering his lawn. No, those dogs are retired K9s, a dog walker argued at the park. Someone's caring for them, and she's just helping in the mornings. Others disagreed. They'd seen too much. Like the time a car backfired and all 6 dogs instantly snapped into defensive formation around her. Or the day a stranger approached asking questions, and the largest dog pressed his body against Lily's legs, baring its teeth just enough to make the man back away. These weren't retired pets. These were working guardians. Neighbors began filming her from their porches and shop windows. Clips of the little girl walking 6 police dogs went viral online. People worldwide commented, "Who I ask is she? How can those dogs obey her so perfectly? This child is safer than the president." Still, no one knew her name. No one knew why she walked the dogs. And perhaps most unsettling, no one knew where the dogs went at night. Every day they appeared with her. Every day they vanished afterward. So the mystery only deepened when someone noticed that the dogs weren't just walking around for exercise. They were checking houses, sniffing parked cars, watching rooftops, scanning alleys, moving like a detail protecting someone very important, someone or something. And every morning the question grew louder. Why does this little girl need a police K9 unit watching her every step? More importantly, what were they protecting her from? By the end of the first week, the little girl and her 6 police dogs had become Willowbrook's most startling morning spectacle. By the end of the second week, they had become its obsession. Every cafe, every barber shop, every sidewalk bench seemed to buzz with the same topic: the girl in the pink coat and her army of German shepherds. At Pete's Corner Cafe, customers crowded around the window like it was a movie screen whenever 7:15 a.m. approached. "There she is," someone would whisper, and the entire place would lean forward. Phones lifted, cameras clicked, people held their breath without even realizing it, and every single time, the same surreal scene unfolded. The child walked confidently, the 6 dogs flanking her like royal guards, their posture disciplined, their heads swiveling with silent vigilance. The rumors became wilder each day. "I heard she's the daughter of a federal agent," a woman claimed while stirring sugar into her coffee. "No, you've got it wrong," her friend countered. "Those dogs belong to a fallen officer. The department lets her walk them out of respect." A teenager chimed in, scrolling through a TikTok clip. Someone online said she was a child prodigy who trained the dogs herself. Look at this, 3 million views already. Residents who hadn't seen Lily in person were desperate to catch a glimpse. They waited on porches, stood on balconies, peeked out of shop doors. Some tried approaching her with questions. "Sweetheart, where are your parents? Are those dogs yours? Do you need help crossing a street?" But the dogs always intervened, never aggressively, but firmly enough. A slight shift in formation, a low rumbling growl, a shoulder pressed gently but purposefully against Lily's leg to guide her away, and she always complied without hesitation, eyes lowered, walking as if she carried a burden she wasn't allowed to share. Soon, the town's curiosity turned into concern. Something wasn't adding up. A child walking 1 dog alone would have been surprising enough, but walking 6 highly disciplined police K9s, that was nearly impossible. These weren't ordinary pets, they were professionals. What made it even stranger was the routine itself. The group followed the same streets every morning, looping through the neighborhood in a precise pattern, almost like they were running a patrol route. They paused at specific corners. They checked the same trees, fences, and alleyways every single day. It wasn't random, it wasn't playful, it was deliberate. One early morning, a retired officer named Mr. Hawkins watched from his porch. The moment she passed, his hands shook slightly. "Those dogs aren't retired," he murmured to his wife. "That's K9 level scanning. That's protective formation. That's special detail." "But why would a child need that kind of protection?" his wife asked, brows furrowed. He didn't answer, because he didn't know. What bothered him most was the look on Lily's face, not sadness, not fear, but something quieter, something heavier, as if she understood exactly why those dogs were there. As the days turned into weeks, the whispers grew bolder. People began recording not just her walks, but the dog's behavior, analyzing every movement. And it wasn't long before a local reporter caught wind of the story and decided to uncover the truth behind the mystery child the entire town couldn't stop talking about. Emma Reyes had covered countless human interest stories in her 8 years as a local journalist. Lost pets reunited with owners, charity events, community hero spotlights, but nothing, absolutely nothing, intrigued her the way the little girl with 6 police dogs did. The first time she saw the viral clip online, she replayed it 4 times, studying every detail. The girl's steady pace, the dog's flawless formation, the scanning motions of their heads, the way people instinctively stepped aside. "This isn't normal," she whispered to herself. The next morning, she found herself parked on Maple Street with a camera in hand, waiting. As the church bell chimed, the familiar pink coat appeared in the distance. Emma zoomed in. The dogs tightened their formation as if sensing the attention. Lily kept her gaze forward, her tiny hands clutching the leashes with surprising steadiness. Emma stepped out of her car slowly, not wanting to startle them. She lifted her press badge slightly, hoping it would ease tensions. "Hi there," she called gently. "My name is Emma. I'd love to talk to." She didn't get to finish. The lead dog shifted instantly, placing itself between Emma and the girl. Its stare was sharp, evaluating, protective. Emma froze mid-step. She wasn't afraid of dogs, but this one wasn't giving off a friendly pet vibe. This was an officer on duty. "It's okay," Emma said softly, hands raised to show she meant no harm. "I just want to ask her a few questions." But Lily didn't respond. She didn't even look up. She simply tugged lightly on the leash, and all 6 dogs turned with military precision, guiding her down the street and away from Emma. Emma blinked. "Okay, that's new." She tried again the next day, positioning herself at a different corner. Same result. The dogs blocked her view. The girl stayed silent. The formation never broke. By the 4th attempt, Emma's curiosity had evolved into determination. Something more was happening here. Something purposeful. Kids didn't lead police-trained dogs around town for no reason. She began interviewing neighbors instead. Mrs. Darla, who ran the bakery, said, "Sweet little thing, but those dogs, they watch everything. Gives me chills sometimes." A jogger remarked, "It's like she's royalty and they're her bodyguards." Mr. Hawkins, the retired cop, offered the most unsettling comment. "Those dogs aren't following her. They are protecting her, and someone trained them to do it." Emma's notebook filled quickly. Still, she lacked the one thing she needed most, an interview with the girl herself. On the 5th day, she tried following them discreetly from a distance, but the dogs noticed immediately. The one at the rear stopped, and turned its head and stared directly at Emma as if warning her to stay back. Emma swallowed hard. "What are you hiding, sweetheart?" she whispered. Days turned into a pattern. She'd wait. Lily would appear. The dogs would shield her from any interaction. Emma would observe helplessly until one morning something changed. Instead of turning away from Emma, Lily hesitated, just for a moment. Her eyes lifted slightly, meeting the reporter's gaze for the first time. Not scared, not confused, but sad. Before Emma could speak, the dogs gently nudged the girl forward, resuming their route. That single look burned into Emma's mind. This wasn't just a feel-good story anymore. This was a mystery, and she was determined to uncover the truth, no matter what it took. Emma returned the next morning with a sharper eye and a clearer purpose. She no longer watched the girl, she watched the dogs, and within minutes she noticed details everyone else had missed. The German Shepherd on Lily's far left, a massive male with a deep scar above his right eye, constantly swept his head from side to side, scanning rooftops, balconies, and second-story windows. Another dog paused at every parked car, sniffing the tires and the edges of the bumpers, as if searching for hidden threats. A third stepped slightly ahead whenever the group approached an alley, lowering its body and staring down the narrow passage before allowing Lily to continue. This wasn't a walk, this was a patrol, and Lily was at the center of it. At precisely the same corner each morning, the dogs stopped as if waiting for an unseen signal. The largest 2 positioned themselves in front of the girl, forming a wall. The others spread around her in a half-circle, eyes alert, muscles tense. Passing pedestrians slowed their steps instinctively, sensing the tension even if they didn't understand it. Emma filmed everything. A few minutes later, the formation relaxed and the group moved again. Lily didn't speak, didn't look around, didn't seem frightened, just aware. Her tiny fingers occasionally brushed the dog's fur, offering reassurance, or perhaps seeking it. Emma couldn't tell which, but one moment made her heart pound. As Lily approached a crosswalk, a cyclist sped toward the intersection, not noticing the group. Before anyone could shout, one of the dogs lunged, not to attack, but to shield. It placed its entire body between Lily and the incoming bike, barking sharply. The cyclist skidded to a rattled stop. "I didn't see her," he stammered. The dog didn't move until Lily tugged on the leash, signaling it was okay. Emma captured the entire scene. It was undeniable now. These dogs were acting like highly trained security personnel, not pets. Later that day, Emma showed the footage to Mr. Hawkins, the retired officer. He watched silently, his brow furrowing deeper with each second. "That's tactical protection," he said finally. "See how they rotate positions? That's advanced team movement. Only elite units train like that." Emma leaned forward. "But why protect a child like a high-value target?" Hawkins exhaled slowly. "That's the question, isn't it?" He replayed one part of the video, a frame where the dogs simultaneously turned their heads toward a passing black SUV. Their ears perked, their bodies stiffened. The SUV continued without slowing. "You see that?" Hawkins murmured. They recognized something or someone. Emma's pulse quickened. Could she be in danger? I don't know, but those dogs do. The next morning confirmed his fears. Emma watched as the dogs approached the same intersection. Without warning, all six froze. Their tails stiffened, their noses lifted simultaneously, as if catching the same scent. The largest one stepped closer to Lily, nudging her back gently, but firmly. Lily's face tightened, not in fear, but in understanding. She whispered something too quiet to hear, and the dogs immediately shifted into a tighter formation around her. Emma's breath caught. These weren't random protective instincts. This was a coordinated response to a threat only the dogs could detect. And whatever they sensed, it was getting closer. Long before Willowbrook residents ever saw the little girl in her pink coat, there was a night the town never knew about. A night buried in silence, hidden behind police reports sealed away from the public. It was the night Lily's world shattered, and the night the 6 German shepherds became more than just police dogs. Lily was only 4 when everything changed. Her parents, Officer Daniel and Sergeant Mia Hartwell, were part of a specialized police K9 task force. They didn't talk much about their work, only that they helped keep people safe, a phrase Lily repeated proudly to her dolls. Their home always echoed with the sounds of playful barking and the rattling of dog tags. The 6 dogs, Axel, Nova, Ranger, Blitz, Sable, and Duke, were constants in Lily's life. They trained with her parents every day, but somehow they always softened around her. When Lily toddled into the training yard with her tiny steps, the fierce, disciplined K9 melted instantly. Axel would drop his ball at her feet. Nova would nuzzle her shoulder. Ranger would lie beside her like a giant pillow. "They adore her," Mia would say, smiling. But not even that warmth could shield them from what came next. One stormy night, Daniel burst into the living room with a face Lily had never seen before. Pale, urgent, frightened, Mia grabbed Lily into her arms instantly. "They found us," Daniel whispered. The dogs sensed danger long before the humans fully understood it. They rushed to the windows, barking with a fury that shook the house. Mia knelt in front of Lily, cupping her cheeks. "Sweetheart, listen to Mommy. No matter what happens, these dogs will protect you. Stay with them. Do exactly what they say." Lily didn't understand, but her tears fell anyway. A crash of glass, a shout outside, the front door rattling violently. Daniel screamed, "Go now!" Mia grabbed Lily's tiny backpack, already prepared long ago, for a moment they prayed would never come, and strapped it onto her shoulders. She kissed her daughter's forehead fiercely, as if trying to leave behind every drop of love she still had to give. "Run with them," she whispered. "Don't look back." Axel nudged Lily toward the back door. Nova circled behind her. The formation was instinctive, practiced, perfect. And then it happened. A thunderous explosion shook the house. Lily fell to the ground, the dogs covering her with their bodies, as flames erupted through the hallway. She screamed for her parents, but the dogs dragged her away, guiding her through the smoke out the broken fence into the woods. She never saw her mother or father again. By dawn, firefighters found nothing but charred ruins. But in the woods, 6 German shepherds formed a tight circle around a trembling little girl, alive only because of them. From that moment on, the dogs never left her side. They slept beside her, walked with her, guarded her like she was their mission, not because they were trained to, but because they loved her. And as the neighbors of Willowbrook watched the girl and her silent protectors each morning, none of them knew the truth. These dogs weren't walking with Lily. They were walking for the family she lost. The mystery surrounding Lily and her 6 German shepherds soon reached the Willowbrook Police Department. At first, officers brushed off the reports as exaggerated neighborhood gossip. But once videos began circulating online, showing the dogs blocking strangers, scanning alleys, and responding like trained tactical units, the department could no longer ignore it. Chief Marlowe summoned 2 officers, Hansen and Rivera, to his office. "She's 5 years old," the chief said, sliding a tablet across his desk. "And those aren't pets. Those are specialized K9s. We need to know who trained them, who assigned them, and why they're operating without handlers." Rivera studied the video with narrowed eyes. "Chief, these movements. This is Heil training. These dogs aren't acting rogue. They're on a mission," Hansen added quietly. "Or protecting someone from something." The chief exhaled. Find her and find out what's going on. The next morning, the 2 officers positioned themselves along Lily's route. When she appeared like clockwork, they stepped forward, hands raised, badges visible. "Sweetheart," Officer Hansen called gently. "Can we talk to you?" Lily froze. The dogs immediately reacted. Axel stepped in front of her. Nova flanked her left side. Ranger and Blitz moved in tight formation. Sable and Duke circle behind, watching the officers carefully. It was intimidating enough to make both trained officers hesitate. "It's okay," Rivera said softly. "We're not here to hurt you. We just want to make sure you're safe." Lily clutched the leashes tighter, but didn't speak. Hansen tried another approach. "We need to know who these dogs belong to. Are your parents nearby? Do you live around here?" No response, only 6 pairs of sharp canine eyes staring back at them. Finally, Hansen attempted to step around the dogs slowly, carefully. That was a mistake. Blitz growled low, positioning himself between Hansen and Lily with lightning precision. His muscles stiffened, ready to react if Hansen moved another inch. "All right, okay, I get it," Hansen said, backing away with both palms raised. "Nobody's trying to grab her." Rivera exchanged a troubled glance with him. "Chief isn't going to like this." They followed at a safe distance, observing silently. What they saw unsettled them even more. The dogs weren't unpredictable. They weren't wild. Their movements were measured, controlled, almost strategic. "These are working dogs," Hansen whispered, "and they're handling themselves better than half our unit." At one intersection, a car rolled through the stop sign too quickly. Before Lily even reacted, Duke lunged forward, barking sharply, forcing the car to halt. The driver lifted both hands, terrified. Rivera muttered, "That's textbook protective training." When their shift ended, the officers returned to the station and reported to Chief Marlowe. "So, did you speak with her?" the chief asked. Rivera shook her head. The dogs wouldn't allow it. They treated us like potential threats. Hansen added, Chief, I don't think this girl is in control of the dogs. I think the dogs are in control of her protection. The chief leaned back, troubled. Then the question becomes, he stared at the paused video of Lily walking, surrounded by 6 loyal guardians who would die before letting anything happen to her. What danger is she in? The department began preparing an investigation, but before they could take action, the danger the chief feared was already moving closer. Yet the first time the black SUV appeared, most people didn't think much of it. Willowbrook was a peaceful town, but tourists wandered through occasionally, and unfamiliar vehicles weren't exactly rare. But the dogs noticed it instantly. Emma saw too. She had been following at a distance, cameras slung discreetly at her side. When the sleek SUV rolled slowly past the intersection, its windows were tinted so darkly that the reflections of the houses danced across them like shadows. No driver was visible, no faces, just a dark shape gliding silently down Maple Street. But the dogs reacted immediately. Axel stopped mid-step, muscles tightening. Nova's ears snapped upward. Blitz growled low, deep enough for Emma to hear from across the street. Lily didn't look frightened, but she looked aware. Something inside her recognized the threat the same moment the dogs did. The SUV didn't stop, it didn't speed up, it simply drifted past, but its presence lingered like smoke. Emma felt a chill crawl up her spine. She raised her camera, zoomed in, but the SUV turned the corner before she could capture a clear shot. The next morning, the SUV returned. Same time, same street, same slow, predatory roll. This time, the dogs moved differently. They formed a tighter cluster around Lily, pushing her slightly inward without looking at her, as if rehearsed. Their eyes locked onto the vehicle, following every inch of its movement with razor focus. Emma's instinct screamed. This wasn't coincidence. She approached Mr. Hawkins later that day, showing him what she'd captured. The retired cop went pale. That's no tourist, he muttered. But that's surveillance and that's professional. Emma frowned. Professional like law enforcement. Hawkins shook his head firmly. No, professional like the kind of people your mother warned you about. These dogs weren't trained to walk a little girl. They were trained to guard a target. The word target made Emma's stomach twist. Over the next week, the SUV appeared again and again, always keeping distance, always watching. Sometimes it parked for 3 minutes at a time before disappearing. Other days, it followed the group for several blocks before peeling away, but the dogs never relaxed. Axel positioned himself in front of Lily whenever the SUV came near. Ranger and Blitz scanned the sidewalks intensely. Duke would stare at the tinted windshield, hackles raised, refusing to blink. Lily clutched the leashes with white knuckles, her expression steady but sad, as if she'd been waiting for this moment for a very long time. Emma approached her gently one morning, voice soft. Lily, is someone looking for you? Barely a whisper escaped the girl's lips. Not someone. She swallowed. They are. Before Emma could ask more, the dogs nudged Lily forward urgently. The SUV had turned the corner again. Closer. This time, Emma pulled out her camera, hands trembling, but the dogs blocked her shot, forming an impenetrable wall around Lily as they hurried her across the street. The message was clear. They weren't just protecting her from the SUV, they were protecting everyone else from knowing the truth. As the vehicle crept forward, Emma felt her pulse spike. Whatever was coming, whatever these dogs feared, it wasn't just nearby, it had already arrived. The night the truth finally clawed its way to the surface began like any other, quiet, peaceful, deceptively normal. Willowbrook slept under a velvet sky, porch lights glowing like scattered fireflies. But inside the small house where Lily lived with her grandmother, something was wrong. The dogs felt it first. Axel lifted his head suddenly, ears twitching. Nova let out a low whine. Ranger moved from his resting place near Lily's bedroom door to the hallway. Hackles rising, Blitz and Sable began pacing, noses lifting as if catching a scent carried on the faintest breeze. Duke stood perfectly still, staring at the front door. It was coming. Down the hall, Lily lay asleep, curled beneath a blanket, clutching the faded stuffed bunny she never parted with. Her grandmother, Mrs. Hartwell, sat in the living room knitting, unaware of the danger creeping closer. She only frowned when she heard the dogs shifting positions. "What's gone into you all?" she whispered. Then she heard it, a soft crunch, a footstep outside. The porch boards creaked, a sound too deliberate, too heavy to be the wind. Mrs. Hartwell froze, knitting needles suspended mid-air. She opened her mouth to speak, but Axel growled loudly, a deep warning that rattled the windows. Blitz positioned himself in front of Lily's bedroom. Nova stepped toward the living room, barking sharply. Duke charged the front door. Mrs. Hartwell stood trembling. "Who's there?" No answer, only silence thick enough to suffocate. Then crash. The living room window shattered inward as two masked figures climbed through, landing with cat-like precision. Mrs. Hartwell screamed, stumbling backward before the intruders could move another inch. Ranger and Sable lunged, teeth bared, knocking one man to the floor. The other raised a weapon, but Duke slammed into him with a force that sent the gun skittering across the hardwood floor. The room erupted into chaos. Growls, shouts, a thud as another window shattered. More men stormed in, armed and coordinated. "This wasn't a robbery. This was an attack. Grab the girl!" one of them shouted. The dogs roared in unison. Axel barreled down the hallway like a bullet, reaching Lily's room seconds before a masked intruder did. The man had barely stepped inside when Axel leaped, jaws locking onto his arm and dragging him backward, slamming him against the wall. Lily jolted awake, terrified. Axel, before she could stand, Blitz nudged her toward the closet, barking urgently. Lily ran inside, huddling on the floor as the door shut. Blitz planted himself in front of it like a steel gate. Mrs. Hartwell rushed toward Lily's room, but another intruder blocked her path. Nova lunged, knocking the man off balance, giving Mrs. Hartwell just enough time to push past and reach Lily. Outside the house, headlights flashed. The black SUV, more figures spilled out, running toward the broken windows. Inside, the dogs fought with relentless fury, outnumbered, but refusing to yield. They defended every inch of the house, every breath Lily took, every heartbeat. But there were too many attackers. As Lily trembled in the darkness of a closet, Blitz pressed against the door, absorbing blows meant for her. She covered her ears as shouts and gunshots echoed. Then sirens, distant at first, growing louder, and the intruders began retreating, dragging their injured away. The SUV peeled off into the night. When the police finally burst in, the house was wrecked, furniture overturned, glass everywhere. But Lily was alive, only because 6 dogs had fought like warriors to protect her from a threat that had finally reached her door. The morning after the attack, Willowbrook no longer felt like the quiet town everyone thought it was. Police cars crowded the street, non-officers moved in and out of the damaged house, and yellow tape wrapped around the broken windows like a warning. Lily sat on the living room couch, wrapped in a blanket, her knees pulled to her chest. The 6 German shepherds surrounded her, not resting, not relaxed, still standing guard, eyes tracing every movement in the room. Chief Marlowe knelt in front of Lily. "Sweetheart, we need to understand what happened. Why were those men after you?" Lily didn't answer. She kept her eyes on her hands, twisting the edge of the blanket. Her grandmother, Mrs. Hartwell, stepped forward, trembling but resolved. "They weren't after the house," she whispered. "They were after her, just like before. Chief Marlowe's brows knit. Before, Mrs. Hartwell sank into a chair, her voice unsteady. I prayed this day would never come, but I suppose hiding the truth hasn't kept her safe, it's only delayed the danger. The room quieted, even the dogs seemed to listen. Mrs. Hartwell took a breath. Lily's parents, Daniel and Mia, they weren't just officers. They were part of an undercover task force investigating a syndicate known as the Black Viper Ring. Chief Marlowe stiffened. That organization was dismantled years ago. Number misses. Hartwell corrected softly. Only the smaller branches. Daniel and Mia were after its core. Their leader, Victor Drago. He was ruthless and he knew the police were closing in. Emma, who had been allowed inside due to her earlier involvement, leaned forward, heart pounding. Is that what happened the night the house burned? Mrs. Hartwell nodded, tears glistening. Daniel and Mia had uncovered evidence that could expose Drago's entirely, but before they could deliver it, he found them. Lily pulled the blanket tighter around her shoulders. The dogs pressed closer, offering silent reassurance. Mrs. Hartwell continued, voice cracking. That night, when the explosion happened, Daniel sent a final message. He told me that if something happened to them, the dogs were trained to carry out one last mission. She looked at the 6 German shepherds, her eyes filling, to protect Lily at all costs until the leader was caught. Chief Marlowe exhaled sharply, realization dawning. So Drago is still out there and he wants the girl, because Daniel and Mia hid something. Mrs. Hartwell said something he desperately wants back. He believes Lily might know where it is. Lily finally looked up, her voice barely a whisper. Mommy told me if bad people came, the dogs would keep me safe. She said they know what to do, even when I don't. The chief rubbed his forehead. This wasn't a random attack. This was an extraction attempt. Emma's voice shook. So the SUV, those men, they're connected to this syndicate. Mrs. Hartwell nodded. They've been searching for her ever since that night. Silence fell over the room. 6 dogs stood like statues. A child clutched her blanket. And the reality hit everyone at once. Lily wasn't just a little girl with loyal dogs. She was the surviving daughter of 2 officers who died trying to take down a criminal empire, and that empire had finally found her again. Emma Reyes barely slept that night. The weight of what she had learned pressed against her chest like a cinder block. A secret criminal syndicate, a dead police couple, a little girl living under constant threat, and 6 elite German shepherds acting as her silent shield. It wasn't just a story anymore. It was a responsibility. By dawn, Emma sat in her home office, coffee untouched, drafts stacked around her. She knew publishing anything could put Lily in more danger, but staying silent could be worse. The police needed help. The community needed awareness. The world needed to know this wasn't some cute viral video. It was a family fighting to stay alive. Emma wrote carefully, removing names, hiding specific details, protecting the Hartwell's location. Her article focused on the mystery, on the town's fascination, on the unexplained coordination of the dogs. She avoided revealing the attack, the syndicate, or Lily's past. But even with everything concealed, the story had teeth. When she hit publish, the article went live under the headline, 6 dogs, 1 little girl, and a town full of questions. Within hours, it exploded online. Comments poured in, shares skyrocketed. News outlets contacted her for interviews. People around the world were captivated, but not everyone. Around noon, Emma received a message request from an anonymous account. You're closer to the truth than you realize. She frowned. Another notification popped up. Stop digging. Her pulse quickened. Before she could react, a third message arrived. "We know who the girl is." Emma's stomach twisted painfully. She rushed to call Chief Marlowe, but before he answered, another alert flashed across her screen. This time, not a message, but a link someone had sent. A link containing a photo. Her blood ran cold. It was Lily walking her dogs with a target symbol drawn over her face. Emma's voice trembled as she spoke into the phone. "Chief, you need to get to Lily's house now," but the chief's voice was strained. "Emma, I was just about to call you. Something's already happened." Before Emma could respond, a deafening blast shook her windows. She gasped, dropping her phone. Smoke curled into the sky from the direction of Lily Street. "No," Emma whispered, grabbing her keys and sprinting out the door. When she arrived, yucca chaos swarmed the neighborhood. Police were everywhere. Neighbors stood outside in fear. The air smelled of smoke and dust. Emma pushed through the crowd until she reached Chief Marlowe. "What happened?" she demanded, breathless. The chief's jaw was tight. Someone set off a diversionary explosive at the end of the block. No one was hurt, but it was a message. Emma swallowed hard. "For the dogs. For all of us," he said darkly. Behind him, Lily's 6 German shepherds stood in a tight defensive circle, ears pinned back, growling at every unfamiliar sound. Lily, held protectively by her grandmother, looked terrified for the first time since Emma had met her. Emma stared numbly at the scene. Her article, her attempt to help, had drawn national attention, but it had also drawn the wrong eyes. The Syndicate wasn't guessing anymore. They weren't searching blindly, they were sending warnings, and now everyone realized the truth. Lily wasn't just being watched, she was being hunted. The explosion had rattled the entire street, but the real nightmare came the following morning. Quiet, calculated, and far more dangerous. Willowbrook awoke in a tense fog. Police patrolling corners, neighbors peering nervously from behind curtains. No one knew what would happen next, but the dogs did. Axel paced the front yard, relentlessly, growling at every passing car. Rangers stayed glued to Lily's side, shadowing her every step. Blitz and Duke rotated positions near the porch like rotating sentries. Sable and Nova stayed near the perimeter, ears twitching at even the faintest rustle. Lily tried to draw with chalk on the sidewalk, but her hands trembled. Her grandmother sat beside her, trying to appear calm, though fear clung to her like a second skin. Emma and Chief Marlowe stood a few yards away, discussing emergency protection protocols. "We need to relocate them," the chief insisted. "Somewhere secure, a safe house." Emma nodded, yet before it's too late. But before they could finalize a plan, a scream erupted from the far end of the street. Mrs. Laney, the elderly neighbor, stumbled into the road, shouting, "Help!" They took him. Someone grabbed my grandson. The chief spun around. "What? From where?" She pointed frantically toward the wooded trail behind the houses. He was playing in the yard. 2 men snatched him and ran. At that exact moment, the 6 German shepherds snapped their heads toward the woods in perfect unison. Their bodies stiffened. They didn't see the kidnapped boy. They smelled something else. Danger. Intent. In the same scent from the men who attacked Lily's house. And then it happened. A black van screeched around the corner, accelerating toward Lily. Doors slid open mid-motion. Masked men reached out. "Grab the girl!" one shouted. Lily froze. Mrs. Hartwell screamed. The chief reached for his weapon, but the dogs moved first. Axel launched himself at the van with explosive force, slamming into one kidnapper and knocking him out of the vehicle entirely. Duke lunged next, grabbing the pant leg of another man, attempting to jump out. Nova and Sable formed a barrier in front of Lily, pushing her backward. Blitz tackled a man who sprinted toward them, pinning him to the asphalt with a furious roar. The van swerved wildly, trying to shake Axel off as he hung onto the attacker's arm. Ranger leapt onto the hood, claws scraping metal as he snarled at the driver through the windshield. The attack was so fast, so violent that even Chief Marlowe stood stunned. One kidnapper managed to break free and lunged toward Lily, grabbing for her arm. Lily screamed. Before the man touched her, Nova slammed into his side, knocking him 10 feet across the pavement. The man hit the ground hard, groaning. The van's driver panicked and slammed the vehicle into reverse, tires screeching as he attempted to escape. But Axel released his hold and bolted toward Duke, who had dragged another attacker down by the leg. Blitz sprinted after the van, barking ferociously, but the vehicle peeled away before the dogs could stop it. The remaining kidnappers scrambled to flee, except they couldn't. Every single one of them was already on the ground, pinned beneath a snarling, furious German shepherd. The street went silent. Lily collapsed to her knees, shaking. The dogs rushed to her instantly, circling her, sniffing her, ensuring she was safe. Chief Marlowe exhaled shakily. If the dogs weren't here, Emma finished the sentence for him, voice trembling. They weren't kidnapping the neighbor's boy. She looked at Lily. They were using him to get to her. The failed kidnapping attempt shattered any illusion that Willowbrook could still pretend to be a safe, quiet town. Within hours, SWAT trucks rolled through the streets. Officers established roadblocks and drones buzzed overhead, scanning the woods. The air hummed with urgency. A storm was coming, and everyone knew Lily was at the center of it. Inside the police command center set up at the town hall, Chief Marlowe stood over a large map. "They're cornered," he said, "and are tapping a red circle drawn around an abandoned factory on the outskirts of town. Our intel confirms the remaining operatives regrouped here. That's likely where they're holding the kidnapped boy and where Drago's men plan their next move." Emma folded her arms tightly. "You're going after them tonight?" "We don't have a choice," Marlowe replied. "They won't stop until Lily is dead or captured." A soft bark interrupted them. Lily stood in the doorway, the 6 German shepherds flanking her like shadows. Her small voice trembled but carried strength beyond her years. "The dogs want to help." The SWAT commander looked skeptical. "Ma'am, these are police-trained K9s, but taking a child." "They're not suggesting she come," Emma interjected quickly. "They're offering themselves." Axel stepped forward, head high, eyes burning with fierce intelligence. The ranger moved beside him, nudging the map with his nose as if pointing at the factory. Chief Marlowe exchanged a look with the SWAT commander. "Fine," the chief said quietly. "We take them." Night fell like a heavy curtain. The abandoned factory loomed against the sky. Broken windows, rusted steel beams, shadows that seemed to breathe. SWAT officers surrounded the perimeter, moving silently. Emma stayed behind at the mobile command post, praying the boy was still alive. Lily waited beside her grandmother, hands trembling around her stuffed bunny. "Will they come back?" she whispered. Emma knelt beside her. "They always come back." Inside the factory, the operation began. Axel led the entry, slipping through a broken doorway with Blitz and Duke right behind him. They moved silently, noses low, bodies alert. SWAT officers followed, weapons drawn. In the first sign of trouble came fast. A gunshot cracked through the darkness. Blitz barked sharply, leaping at a man hiding behind a crate. The intruder screamed as Blitz knocked him flat. More shadows shifted. "They're here!" someone shouted. Chaos exploded. SWAT officers engaged from one side. The dogs attacked from the other. Duke tackled a gunman trying to flank the team. Nova and Ranger cornered 2 more, snarling until they dropped their weapons. Axel sprinted ahead, darting into a side hall, and froze. A boy's whimper. Axel barked once loudly. SWAT rushed in. The kidnapped neighbor boy sat tied to a chair, terrified, but alive. Officers cut his restraints immediately. But before they could celebrate, A chilling, thunderous voice echoed through the factory. "Where is the girl?" Drago, the mastermind himself, stepped out of the shadows. Armed, flanked by 3 remaining operatives. "Hand over the child," he growled, "and this ends." Axel snarled, "Low, dangerous." Then everything erupted at once. Gunfire, barking, shouts. Axel lunged toward Drago. SWAT charged. Drago fired but missed. Ranger and Sable knocked one G-man down. Blitz tore the weapon from another's hands. Within seconds, the Syndicate operatives were subdued. Dragos found himself pinned beneath Axel's massive weight, the dog's teeth inches from his throat. For the first time, the crime lord looked afraid. "It's over," Chief Marlowe said, cuffs clicking shut. And it was. The empire that had hunted Lily since the night her parents died had finally fallen. Dawn broke slowly over Willowbrook, painting the sky in soft shades of gold and rose, a peaceful contrast to the chaos of the previous night. The abandoned factory had been cleared, Drago and his men were securely detained, and the kidnapped boy was safely reunited with his grandmother. SWAT officers shook hands, reporters scrambled for statements, and the town began to exhale for the first time in weeks. But Lily wasn't celebrating. She stood at the edge of the police cordon, clutching her stuffed bunny with one hand and Axel's fur with the other. The 6 dogs circled her protectively, their bodies tired but spirits unbroken. Chief Marlowe approached her gently. "Lily, it's over now. You're safe." Lily didn't smile. Her eyes drifted toward the brightening horizon. "Mommy and Daddy, they said the dogs would keep me safe until the bad man was gone." Mrs. Hartwell placed a trembling hand on her granddaughter's shoulder. "Sweetheart, your parents, they would be so proud of you." Emma stood beside them, unsure whether to speak. She felt like an outsider in a sacred moment, yet somehow deeply connected to it. Lily, the chief, continued softly, "There's something you should know, something your parents never had the chance to tell you." Lily looked up, confused. Mrs. Hartwell's voice shook as she stepped closer. "Your mommy and daddy, they didn't just fight the Syndicate. They knew their mission might take their lives, so they prepared everything, every detail, to protect you." Emma swallowed hard, sensing a truth heavier than anything she'd written. Mrs. Hartwell opened a small, weathered notebook she had carried for years. "This was found in their safe after the fire," she whispered. "It explains everything." She turned the book toward Lily. Inside were pages filled with sketches of the dogs, each labeled with notes in Daniel or Mia's handwriting. Axel, primary guardian. Nova, emotional support. Ranger, night patrol. Blitz, close quarters defense. Sable, sensory detection. Duke, threat extraction. The notebook shook in Mrs. Hartwell's hands. "Your parents trained them not just to fight, but to love you, to understand you, to keep you safe if they couldn't." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "They trained them for me." Mrs. Hartwell nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Every command they taught the dogs came with your name. Every drill ended with your photograph. When they went undercover, they told the dogs, 'Protect Lily, no matter what.'" Axel nudged Lily gently, lowering his head against her arm as if confirming every word. Emma wiped her eyes. "They weren't just police officers," she whispered. "They were heroes." Chief Marlowe knelt beside Lily. "Your parents' evidence, the files that could destroy Drago's, was hidden inside a GPS tracker embedded in Duke's old collar. The dogs carried the truth with them the entire time, and because of that, the Syndicate fell." Lily looked around at her 6 guardians. "So, Mommy and Daddy were with me every day." Mrs. Hartwell hugged her tightly. "Yes, sweetheart. In every bark, every patrol, every moment, the dogs stood between you and danger. Your parents were right there. As the sun rose higher, The golden light washed over Lily and her dogs, 6 living promises from a mother and father who died to protect their daughter. And for the first time in weeks, Lily's small, trembling smile returned. Willowbrook was never the same after the night the Syndicate fell. News spread faster than wildfire. About the undercover officers who sacrificed everything, about the little girl who'd lived under threat her whole life, and about the 6 extraordinary German shepherds who protected her with a loyalty no human could match. The town, once quiet and unremarkable, transformed into a symbol of unity and resilience. Within days, neighbors who barely knew each other began visiting Lily's home with flowers, cards, teddy bears, and warm meals. Strangers who had once watched her morning walks out of curiosity now approached with compassion and respect. People didn't whisper rumors anymore, they whispered gratitude. Emma stood on the sidewalk one morning, watching Lily's familiar routine. But it wasn't the same. This time when Lily stepped outside, pink coat, ponytail, holding the leashes of her 6 guardians, Lam and the neighborhood didn't stare in silence. They applauded softly. Some waved, others placed hands over their hearts. A few even cried. Lily paused, unsure at first, but when Axel nudged her gently, she lifted her hand and waved back. Her smile was small but genuine, a fragile seed of hope beginning to bloom. Chief Marlowe met with the mayor, the council, and community leaders. They agreed the dog service deserved recognition. A ceremony was arranged at Willowbrook Park, where hundreds of residents gathered beneath a rising sun. On stage stood 6 German shepherds, each wearing Polish police K9 badges on new collars. Lily sat on a chair beside her grandmother, legs dangling, watching proudly. The mayor stepped to the podium. Today we honor not only the bravery of our officers, but the extraordinary loyalty of 6 heroes who protected one of our own when the world turned dark. They taught us that courage doesn't always come with a uniform. Sometimes it comes on 4 paws. The crowd erupted in applause. Axel barked once as if accepting a praise formally. Emma, standing off to the side with her camera, captured every moment. But for once she wasn't thinking about headlines. She was thinking about Lily's parents, whose love had echoed through time, through chaos, through danger, all the way to this peaceful morning. After the ceremony, children approached Lily Shilly. "Can we pet them?" one boy asked. Lily looked at the dogs. Axel surveyed the children, then gave a soft, approving grunt. Lily nodded. "They're friendly," she said, her voice steadier than before. "They just protect me." The children laughed as Nova rolled onto her back. Blitz nudged their hands, and Sable sat proudly for a pat. For the first time, the dogs weren't guarding Lily from the world. They were helping her reconnect with it. Later, as the park emptied, Emma knelt beside Lily. "How do you feel?" she asked gently. Lily gazed at the sky. "Safe," she whispered. "Mommy and Daddy aren't here, but their dogs are, and now the whole town is helping too." Emma smiled, brushing a tear away. "You're not alone anymore." Mrs. Hartwell placed an arm around Lily's shoulders. The 6 dogs closed in, forming their familiar protective circle, not out of fear this time, but out of habit and love. Willowbrook had changed, and Lily was finally learning what life felt like when danger wasn't waiting at every corner. The world had taken so much from her, but now, piece by piece, it was giving something back. A week after the ceremony, Willowbrook settled into a new rhythm, still peaceful, but now bound together by a shared sense of purpose. The scars of the past hadn't vanished, yet for the first time in her young life, Lily felt the world wasn't something she needed to hide from. Early one morning, before the sun lifted fully above the rooftops, Lily woke with a quiet thought, tugging at her heart. She slipped out of bed, careful not to wake her grandmother, and padded through the house in her fuzzy socks. When she opened the back door, 6 familiar shadows lifted their heads. Axel stood first, as always, pressing his forehead lightly against hers. The others gathered around, tails swaying gently. Without a word, they understood. Lily grabbed her pink coat and whispered, "Let's go see Mommy and Daddy." The dogs formed their instinctive formation as they walked down the hushed street, but it felt different now, not fearful, not tense. Protective, yes, but peaceful, as if they finally believed the world might let this little girl breathe. The path to Willowbrook Memorial Park was quiet, except for the soft patter of small footsteps and gentle padding of paws. When they reached the memorial stone, polished marble engraved with the names Daniel Hartwell and Mia Hartwell. Lily sat in the grass and placed her stuffed bunny at its base. "I miss you," she whispered. The wind stirred the leaves. Sunlight broke gently across the stone. Lily looked at the 6 German shepherds gathered around her. "You kept your promise," she whispered, "just like Mommy and Daddy said you would." Axel lay at her feet. Nova rested her head in Lily's lap. Ranger and Blitz positioned themselves behind her, keeping quiet watch. Sable and Duke sat proudly by either side, forming just as they always had, her circle of safety. Lily took a deep breath. "Mommy, Daddy, I'm okay now. The bad people are gone and the whole town is helping me. I'm not scared anymore." Her voice broke a little, but she didn't cry. Instead, she leaned forward and wrapped her arms around Axel's thick neck. "Thank you for sending them to me. Thank you for loving me even when you couldn't be here." The moment was soft, raw, perfect. Emma arrived quietly at the edge of the park, noticing the scene from a distance. She didn't approach. Some moments weren't meant to be interrupted. Instead, she recorded it silently. Tears in her eyes, not for a story, not for the world, just to remember it. As Lily rose from the grass, she brushed dirt from her coat and smiled. A real smile, a strong one. "Let's go home," she said. The dog stood instantly. As they walked back through Willowbrook, something beautiful happened. Neighbors waved from porches, shop owners stepped outside to greet her, children ran to fences calling her name. The town didn't just see her anymore. They cherished her, supported her, protected her, and slowly Lily began to understand the truth. Her parents always hoped she'd one day feel. Family isn't only the one you're born into. Sometimes it's built from those who choose to stand by you, humans or dogs, in loyalty, in sacrifice, in love. As the morning sun climbed higher, painting the world in gold, Lily walked confidently with her 6 guardians beside her, safer, stronger, surrounded. The story that began in fear finally ended in hope. This story teaches that true courage isn't always loud. It often comes from loyalty, love, and the choices we make to protect others. Lily's parents showed bravery through sacrifice, and the 6 dogs showed unwavering devotion by guarding her when she needed it most. It reminds us that heroes can come in many forms, and family can be built through trust, kindness, and responsibility. It also shows that communities grow stronger when they unite to help someone in need. Above all, the story encourages resilience. No matter how dark the past is, healing begins when people stand.